These are the top 20 times when Captain America went God mode in the movies.
Sir, we really need to get inside. I'm closing it.
The opening to Age of Ultron was all kinds of perfect, and Captain America had a huge role to play in that. I mean, the way he maneuvers his bike around his enemies only to freaking throw it at a tank and destroy it was freaking awesome. It was easily the most visually appealing attack of the entire sequence, and even if I ignore all the Hydra agents whom he takes down without breaking a sweat, I can't not talk about how he and Thor combined to give us a classic shockwave scene. At this rate, bro's no less of a god than anyone else in the scene.
You'll have to be faster than that. You got nowhere to go!
A true legend never stops even after completing amazing feats. Take this moment from the Winter Soldier as an example. Captain America just gets done with one of the most memorable scenes in the MCU.
It's impersonal!
But he doesn't stop there. Bro jumps out from the 10th floor and makes a cool landing on his shield, after which he pulls off an epic escape while riding a bike, and if that wasn't enough for you, bro took down a freaking battle jet right after that with some of the most ridiculous stunts you'll ever see. It was just badass moment after badass moment here, and I still can't get over the fact that people don't talk about sequences like these as much as some of the more popular stuff. It's often so nice to be reunited with an old pal, although it's not too pleasant when you end up fighting against him after 70 odd years. The highway fight between Captain America and the Winter Soldier was all sorts of things, but the word that describes it best should be marvelous. It was an expertly choreographed sequence with both super soldiers showing off their strength. Of course, Cap has to be the one who's flexing more, which is quite evident in the way he flips Bucky and drops him to the ground not once, but twice. Yeah, now that's how you establish dominance. The only thing that makes his actions regretful is the fact that bro was fighting against his bro without even knowing it.
Bucky? Who the hell is Bucky?
But it's a trick.
No, it's much more than that.
Whosoever be he, worthy shall have the power.
Whatever, man, it's a trick.
Well, please be my guest.
Being able to lift Thor's hammer is an achievement and a half, even if you don't happen to do anything else. Tons of people have tried it, but only a handful have succeeded.
Are you even pulling? Are you on my team? Just represent, pull.
All right, let's go.
And one of them is none other than Mr. Steve Rogers. So he technically doesn't lift Mjolnir completely here, but he does happen to nudge it, which makes Thor question his entire existence. This should have been an obvious indicator to fans regarding Cap's worthiness, but another impressive feature here is that bro managed to hold himself back from lifting the hammer while making it seem as though he was really going for it. It looks like bro's been taking acting classes from Chris Evans. This may not sound like much off first glance, but believe me, it's a huge achievement for a mortal who only has the benefit of some premium steroids. This is the infamous final sequence from Wakanda, where Thanos takes down each of the Avengers one after the other, including the likes of the Hulkbuster, Black Panther, and War Machine. Seeing how easily he was able to counter powerful opponents with such ease, you'd imagine someone like Steve Rogers wasn't going to stand a chance at all. However, not only did he manage to get a few licks in, our man was also able to hold back a punch from Thanos, which I'm assuming was at least close to full power. That's the kind of strength that could send Thor or the Hulk flying away, so for Captain America to be able to counter it was pretty damn amazing by itself. Can't really speak about the rest of this scene though, because that'll just ruin everyone's moods.
I have eyes on Loki, 14th floor. I'm not Loki.
Well, I'm not sure if taking on yourself is supposed to be a god mode flex, but we need to consider the fact that all the other entries of this list are supposed to prove that claim, so by that logic, this scene works. The 2023 version of Captain America taking on the 2012 version of the character was definitely a moment nobody was expecting to see. The choreography was on point, and we got some really exquisite shots as well. Now, it was definitely odd to see Cap choking himself, but at this point, with everything else we've seen, it shouldn't have come as a shocker to the MCU regulars.
Bucky is alive!
I also like the fact that Steve Rogers is annoyed by his opponent's stubbornness and tenacity.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
Because those are supposed to be amongst his most valuable traits. This also displays a great shift in character, as he's no longer the idealistic soldier we knew back from 2012. He knows his own weaknesses, and he makes sure to exploit them as long as he's able to achieve his goals. See, the world isn't so black and white after all.
That is America's ass.
What do we do, Cap?
We fight.
They're not stopping.
Neither are we.
The airport battle is obviously a highlight from Civil War, but for this entry, I want to focus on how Steve Rogers takes on multiple opponents and does a badass job against all of them. First up, we have Black Panther, who's definitely on the same skill level as Captain America, if not a higher level.
Sorry, Cap, this won't kill you, but it ain't gonna tickle either.
I personally feel that their fight should have been a bit longer because it could have broken the internet. However, there were time restrictions, so we had to move on from that. Then you've got guys like War Machine and Iron Man also flying around, and Cap was able to manage them as well, but his most epic moment was the fight against Spider-Man. The way Steve is able to dominate Peter Parker, even though Spidey is supposed to have super strength as well, was definitely impressive. And said a lot about how strong super soldiers really are. Man, I really wish Marvel went back to making movies like these. I really miss the good old days.
You got hard, kid. Where you from?
Queens?
Brooklyn.
The power to make real change, and that terrifies you.
I wouldn't call it a comfort.
Stop.
Just because this is a video covering God mode scenes, it doesn't mean Cap has to come out on top every single time. There you go, I've addressed the elephant in the room regarding Steve's battle against Ultron. He doesn't win, but that's not the point, because he's still able to put up a good fight, just like he was able to withstand Thanos in the earlier entry. As far as the battle itself is concerned, we see some seriously impressive moves from the super soldier as he literally throws Ultron at a concrete beam and then tackles him with full confidence. You also have to admire his tenacity and belief, because I don't think anyone else would try to choke a robot in their right mind. Well, I suppose Cap's love for choking isn't exactly a secret now, so I'll just give him credit for being able to stall the murderous robot. Heck, if I lasted even half of that much time against a dude like Ultron, I'd probably start my own religion.
Cap, can you keep him occupied?
What do you think I've been doing?
Give me your coordinates, I'll find you a safe landing site.
There's not gonna be a safe landing, but I can try and force it down.
Look, there's nothing God mode about crash landing a jet in the middle of nowhere, but there's a lot to be considered when you realise that Steve Rogers laid down his life to make sure he could save thousands of others.
Right now I'm in the middle of nowhere. If I wait any longer, a lot of people are gonna die.
It was probably at this very moment when Mjolnir decided that Captain America was a worthy candidate. There's nothing too flashy in terms of physical strength here, but it's more about mental fortitude and an adherence to one's principles as a soldier. This is an emotionally charged scene as well, because it's the last time Peggy gets to speak with her lover boy until 70 years later, right when she's about to pass. Luckily, Cap managed to get his hands on multiverse travel, which allowed him to actually be on time for his date, although I'm still a little confused about which Peggy he ends up marrying. Well, it's not like it's supposed to be any of my concern. The main point I'm trying to make is that Cap made the ultimate sacrifice, which definitely commands everyone's respect.
8 o'clock on the dot, don't you dare be late.
You know, I still don't know how to dance.
I'll show you how. Just be there.
There's no greater opening to a Captain America film than this one. There's so much going on here that it makes you wonder just how amazing Steve Rogers would have been had he not been overshadowed by a tech billionaire, a literal god, and a Hulk. Anyway, the opening raid was an epic showcase of Cap's skills as he first lands on the enemy base without a freaking parachute.
Is he wearing a parachute?
No, he wasn't.
and goes on to take down several opposition soldiers without having to do much. Bro was casually defeating skilled fighters as if he was knocking pawns off a chessboard. All of this may have been good, but the real fun came when he had to fight against Batroc the Leaper. So if you're a non-comic reader, Batroc is considered to be one of the best hand-to-hand combatants in the Marvel Universe. He uses a mix of Taekwondo, Savate, which is French kickboxing, and Muay Thai. He may not have any superpowers, but he's one heck of a unit, and the fact that he's played by Georges St. Pierre, a former professional MMA fighter, is nothing short of perfect casting. The fight between Batroc and Cap may have been interesting, but I need you to remember that Steve was definitely holding back his punches here.
Payload.
There you are, you son of a... I've been waiting for this!
This is a great way to kick off my top 10, but I do feel that these guys did Crossbones really dirty in the MCU. I mean, they gave him such a great comic-accurate look, and then they killed him off literally 3 minutes later. Well, at least we got a great fight out of it, which involved Captain America beating the daylights out of him, even with the enhanced suit on. My favourite moment was when he took off one of the blades on Crossbones' arms, almost as if to say, bruh, get that nonsense out of here. The fight started off great with Crossbones actually landing some solid hits, but he should have known he was dealing with Captain Freaking America, which means you can't be too arrogant. Having said that, I have to give him credit for planning this encounter so well. He forces Cap to throw his shield, which takes away both his greatest defense and close quarters weapon. Crossbones also knows Steve is a super soldier, so he augmented his combat prowess with tech and armor, and even has a backup bomb in case he can't take him down. Thank God for Wanda, right? There's a lot of chaos going on at the same time with Black Widow and Falcon trying to secure the vial, so let me give you a fun fact. The bad guy that threatens to drop the vial is Damien Poitier. He originally played Thanos at the very end of the first Avengers film.
You know he knew you. Your pal, your buddy, your Bucky. He wanted you to know something. When you gotta go, you gotta go.
Look to your elder people. Let him be an example.
Okay, yes, I'll address the second elephant in the room. Captain America doesn't win this fight either, just like he couldn't win against Ultron in the earlier entry. Instead, bro has to rely on Iron Man to come and save his life. However, just know that he was able to go level with the God of Mischief, who's definitely more accurately portrayed here than he was in Season 1 of Loki.
Kneel. Not today.
The strength of a god is something only a few have been able to match, and even though Steve Rogers never really dominated this fight, he didn't go down either. To be able to counter Loki, who was strong enough on his own, but also happens to have his scepter, is a great achievement, and we shouldn't let the outcome of this fight determine how good of a fighter Cap is. Now, full disclosure, I feel Loki would have been able to take on Iron Man and Cap both if he wanted to, but decided on surrendering anyway to unleash his main plan later. However, that doesn't mean Steve's efforts went to waste. He managed to save innocent lives thanks to the time he took here, and that's what should matter to a superhero at the end of the day.
These guys come from legend. They're basically gods.
There's only one God, ma'am. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
We mostly forget the fact that Captain America was created to lead the army in war. As you know, that's a very hectic routine, especially if you happen to be in the World War II era. Luckily, our man has super soldier serum, which helps him execute this flawless sequence of victories for his men when he takes down several Hydra bases, one after the other. Honestly, this sequence is all about the vibes as Steve Rogers destroys tanks, bases, and enemy soldiers without making much fuss. Even Red Skull was at his wit's end after seeing the damage done to Hydra, and none of that would have been possible without Cap. He looks pretty flawless too as we see him flicking his shield and displaying his agility to great effect. Now look, we all know a soldier can never achieve his goals without resorting to extreme measures, and Captain America is no different in that regard. However, he genuinely believed in his mission, and his success only proved how focused and resilient he is for his country. It was also a neat little touch to show that locket with Peggy's picture in it, because yes, even I'd go to war for a woman like that.
Bucky. You've known me your whole life.
Naruto is very popular in the world of anime, especially for his secret skill, Talk no Jutsu, where he's able to convert the ideologies of even the most twisted villains on Earth. Steve Rogers pulls off something quite similar here, although it does involve getting beaten to a pulp. Now, the reason I'm calling this a God mode scene is because bro uses the power of love, friendship and forgiveness to emerge the true victor here. He mainly focuses on his mission, but doesn't shy away from showcasing his strength either. The fact that he's able to lift Bucky, another super soldier with a metal arm, completely off the ground is insane. His legs don't even look like they're bending or shaking at all in the brief shot of him holding Bucky by the throat. Makes you realize how much he was holding back so he didn't accidentally hurt or kill his buddy. Of course, we do get to see Steve's love for choking, but that's besides the point. Once he gets done with this mission, he manages to halt the Winter Soldier's mind control with his words of persuasion.
I'm not gonna fight you. You're my friend.
Which further cements the fact that bro's almighty.
Then finish it, because I'm with you to the end of the line.
When it comes to choppers, there's nobody who comes close to Arnold Schwarzenegger's love for them. Bro had a meme stashed away in his inventory decades before the internet would become a thing. However, a close contender did show up in 2016 when Captain America rushed to the helicopter Bucky was trying to steal. This particular sequence proved to everyone that Steve Rogers does indeed possess superhuman strength, because I personally don't see any bodybuilder being able to pull this off. That bicep of his was so prominent that it became the star of the entire scene. Even Bucky was probably staring at it instead of Cap's face. You know what would have been really funny though? If Bucky turned on the loudspeaker to say, "Sir, please let go of the helicopter, you're damaging private property." But yeah, this is surely one of his top moments of all time, because we don't ever get to see such a powerful display from him ever again in terms of raw strength. It totally caught me off guard, and the only thing on my mind since then was joining the gym. How's that gone for me so far? Well, I think we'll save that for another video.
Tony, did you know? I didn't know it was him. Did you know?
Back-to-back entries here, although I'm not entirely sold on the logic of this scene. Yep, I still maintain that Steve Rogers had crazy plot armor in this battle, but I am a fair man, which is why the epic finale of Captain America's Civil War finds itself in my top 5. If you want to defeat the Iron Man, then it's going to take a lot more than super soldier serum to get that job done. Luckily for Cap, he had Bucky by his side to help against Tony Stark, and they also had the benefit of taking down Iron Man's aiming and flight system right in the beginning when he was blinded by his rage. Of course, even with all these benefits, it was still going to be a task to defeat his frenemy.
This isn't gonna change what happened. I don't care. He killed my mom.
So Steve Rogers awakened the power of combat to gain the upper hand. This sequence in particular is why I'm placing this entry so high, because it was the one time where Tony definitely looked like he was out of sorts. It's true that he doesn't have the fighting skills Captain America possesses, which was why he relied on his suit's AI to study the patterns and then gain the upper hand again.
He's my friend. So was I.
It was still a neat outburst from Cap, and then we obviously have the final blow, which only came after the Winter Soldier managed to stall Iron Man for enough time to allow yet another sneak attack.
You don't deserve it. My father made that shield. Avengers!
Assemble.
Not only does this one make for an epic quote, it also kicked off the magnum opus of the MCU during its peak era. Hearing Captain America say, "Avengers, assemble," was the moment every Marvel fan and comic book nerd was waiting for ever since the first Iron Man movie came out. We knew this was the catchphrase of the Avengers, but with Chris Evans teasing us all the way until Endgame, we sure got a big release when he actually uttered those magic words. Just picture this. You're commanding the entire team of fighters that have been protecting Earth and the multiverse for a decade. This team includes people like Iron Man, the Hulk, Thor, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, so Steve Rogers gets God status by default right there. He totally owned the moment, and it really felt genuine to see him charge at Thanos' army with his own squadron. There are lots of fights that happen after this, with Captain America also participating in a lot of them, but it would be difficult to pick them all out, which is why I decided to go ahead with the slogan for this entry. It's a moment that's been immortalized in pop culture, mostly as a meme, but make no mistake, the elevator scene is prime Captain America at his best. It starts off rather innocuously, with Cap noticing all isn't well with the general energy in his surroundings. Of course, he quickly understood what was going to happen, but to remain unfazed by an entire group of trained fighters is a whole other level of confidence. Bro even gave them all a final warning because he knew exactly what the outcome was going to be.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
And yeah, that brings me to the main attraction, the fight itself. To be honest, I don't think any of us were surprised to see Steve Rogers emerge victorious. But it was just the savagery on display that makes this worthy of a top 3 spot. The fight choreography was solid, but once again, our man was never really under any serious threat. Keep in mind that Crossbones didn't really have all his tech enhancements at this point, so he was never going to stand a chance no matter how ripped Frank Grillo might be, even as he's nearing the age of 60. After all, Captain America is technically around 100 years old during the events of the Winter Soldier, and he still handed his enemies butts to them.
It kind of feels personal.
No mortal should have so much aura that his mere appearance spooks the living daylights out of someone like Proxima Midnight. And yet, Steve Rogers surprises us all yet again with an entrance that's worthy of a god's welcome. The last we saw of Captain America before this moment was in Civil War when he went on the run, so this is our first tango with him in almost 2 years. And he sure delivers with a deadly walk that could even rival the Shadow Monarch Sung Jin-woo from Solo Leveling. The look of horror on Proxima Midnight was enough evidence to prove how much of a badass Cap is, and the fight that follows right after is nothing short of phenomenal. Yes, he does have support from Black Widow and Falcon, but make no mistake, this is the dude who's in charge, and he's the one who changes the outcome of a situation just with his presence. Heck, this was probably the MCU's equivalent of Walter White saying, "I am the danger." Also, bro was rocking a solid beard at the time, so it definitely added a lot more sass to his appearance. Not that a clean-shaven Steve Rogers would have ruined the moment, but an added touch of masculinity always enhances a superhero's general vibe.
Notice you've copied my beard?
Yes, we've come full circle here from Thanos' followers in Infinity War right to the final boss himself in Endgame, where Steve Rogers finally proves to us that he is indeed worthy of a god's most trusted tool. Lifting Mjolnir was a massive flex, especially after the little tease I discussed in entry number 17, and the fact that Captain America was able to use it so effectively against Thanos was like the icing on top of the cake. It doesn't really get more badass than lifting the God of Thunder's main hammer and whacking the ultimate MCU villain with it. Cap was dominating this fight with total control for the most part, and the highlight has to be when he unleashes the lightning attack on the Mad Titan with such sass and finesse. Yeah, I know that was never going to be enough to take down the big baddie of the MCU, but it did give us an epic moment to cheer. I mean, the theatres were buzzing like crazy when everyone saw Steve Rogers holding Mjolnir like that, and even the look on Thanos' face had shown complete awe and bewilderment. Fat Thor may have tried to play it cool by saying, "I knew it." But right from his little scare in Age of Ultron, I think he was just hoping that he was something else. But yes, to see a mortal wield God's power in the name of justice deserves no spot lower than numero uno. Hope you liked the video, please subscribe to the TV Regent, and here's another video that I know you're going to enjoy.